Given the current news of war between Russia and Ukraine, let's try to further understand how and why political leaders make similar decisions and create moves that's not only seen today in 2022, probably will continue to be similar in the future, but also during World War II, which took place in the early to mid 1900s. Mango and Coco, have you guys been keeping up with the news recently and educating yourselves?
Ooh, yeah, I did. I was scrolling through Catstagram yesterday and saw that Kanye West is being mean about everything because he wants Kim Kardashian back. Oh, and there's this new cat exercise wheel that seems really fun, and this new smell for litter that seems wonderful, and oh,
Stop. Teacher didn't mean news like that. We're in history class. He means current news about Russia attacking Ukraine. After months of denying from Russia's side that they were going to attack Ukraine, Putin attacked aggressively on February 24th. Putin is claiming that Ukraine is still part of Russia and is denying to acknowledge Ukraine's statehood. If you actually watch the news, then you would know stuff like this, Mango.
Coco, you are absolutely correct. I'm glad that you've been keeping up with current news because these events occurring now is in fact part of the present part of world history. Today's class is continuing based off of World War II, but as we can see through the events occurring today, we can learn number one, how countries work and react to different events, specifically war today and in the past. Number two, why political leaders and their followers influence both history and the creation of present news so much. And number three, what political leaders are motivated by when they attack other countries. As we will learn today, there are a lot of parallels between Germany's invasion of neighboring countries before and during the start of World War II, and other more powerful countries verbally claiming they'll help, but in actuality are slow to move. Currently, Ukraine is backed by the countries in NATO, but so far, the biggest things the Western countries have done to help are setting strict economic sanctions instead of sending military help. This is understandable from both perspectives since it could potentially lead to a third world war. But we can't help but question if history is simply repeating itself. So, before we start off today's class, let's start off with two quotes. Number one, what is history? An echo of the past in the future, a reflex from the future on the past. Number two, if you want the present to be different from the past, study the past.
tell me all about it.
Hitler knows. He knows that the UK wants the Soviet Union and America to not lose or get ruined. The Soviet Union is still not part of the UK and America versus Germany and Italy fighting situation. However, if the Soviet Union gets ruined or loses in the East, Japan wouldn't have to tiptoe anymore and just be obnoxious with the way they take part in everything. Japan, up until this point, has been dialing everything down because of the fact that the Soviet Union's still in the game and is perceived as a threat. Based off last class, why was the Soviet Union perceived as a threat?
Wake up, Mango.
Huh? I wasn't sleeping.
Okay, then what was the question teacher just asked?
He asked what the new cat litter smells were.
No, you idiot. He was asking why the Soviet Union was seen as a threat.
Oh, the Soviet Union leader had a really nice mustache?
No. Stalin had a mustache, but that wasn't the reason. The Soviet Union was seen as a threat because they had a massive amount of land, manpower, and resources. They were so big, even through the Great Depression and their economy getting worse, that other countries couldn't make moves without having to consider how the Soviet Union might react.
That's correct, Coco. Good job paying attention last class. So, if the Soviet Union were to lose, be taken over, or basically ruined, who would stop Japan in the East? If Japan were to become a huge entity, especially in the Pacific Ocean, would America, looking from their standpoint, actually end up helping the UK at the end of the day? So, we're talking about World War II, the world war that blows up in 1939. 2 years before World War II started in 1939, in November of 1937, Hitler was personally saying that there is basically no outcome except for a war starting. In November of 1937, there was something called a Hossbach Memorandum.
What's the horseback Is it like an event for horseback riding?
No, dummy. It's called Hossback, not horseback. This has nothing to do with horses.
Well, if you're so smart, what is it?
It was a secret meeting. Something that you wouldn't know about because you wouldn't have been invited.
Hey, that's not true. I would have been invited.
Well, Coco, that's a pretty great summary on what the Hossbach Memorandum was about. And Mango, I don't think you would have been invited to the secret meeting. So, the Hossbach Memorandum was a written summary by Colonel Hossbach, hence the name, Hossbach Memorandum, of a top secret meeting between Hitler and his top ministers and military commanders. It's referred to in historical works as definitive proof of Hitler's plans for war and his expansionist policies. However, there's a few problems with this memorandum. This written note was discovered after World War II, and so there were talks about how it could be a fake document. On top of it all, there was no customary German signature or stamp proving that this was legit. This memorandum stirred up quite the debate among historians for the longest time about whether or not it was valid, but nowadays it's viewed more as being a genuine blueprint for Hitler's policies leading up to and during World War II. Hitler also famously listed the target countries of Austria and Czechoslovakia. If we rewind to World War I, Germany lost, and were basically swimming in debt.
So Germany was in debt because of reparations, right? Because they lost?
Was Germany repairing stuff? Is it because they broke a lot of things while fighting? This is why fighting's bad.
No, dummy. Reparations and repair are two totally different things.
Oh, then what's reparations?
Reparations is when you pay money or whatever else to help those who were wronged.
That's absolutely correct, Coco. In this case, after World War I, the defeated countries are forced to pay some of the war costs of the winning countries. So, the Central Powers had to compensate the Allies for some of their war costs. The Central Powers were the alliance between Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire. The Allies were Great Britain and the British Empire, France, and the Russian Empire. So let's look at three things. Number one, the massive amount of debt Germany had to repay. Number two, the Great Depression that hit hard shortly after. And number three, Germany's overall humiliating loss. These three huge factors caused Hitler to have to think about how to make Germany better and have its people and the country itself survive. For Germany's survival, they decided they needed to acquire more territory. Hitler basically thought with the size of Germany's current territory, there wasn't enough food, resources, or manpower should another major event happen in the future. So, Hitler started thinking that Germany needs to acquire other territories in Europe or in the Soviet Union. And he took into consideration the fact that the UK had a lot of other territories around the world at this time that they need to pay attention to. So, if Germany were to eat up a little tiny bit of land in Europe that wasn't the UK's, they thought that the UK wouldn't make too big of a deal about it. Also, the UK made a big deal about occupying surrounding seas more than land during this time. So it added on to Germany, thinking that them expanding wouldn't get much pushback from the UK. All of these thoughts and calculations made by Hitler were basically summarized in the Hossbach Memorandum as his template for aggressive expansion. The perfect target in Hitler's eyes would be the Soviet Union. Hitler thought that there were a lot of other countries that were wary of Soviet Union's size and were against the Soviet Union expanding or becoming more powerful. Hitler thought, if Germany could get stronger and show the UK that they would be able to hold off the Soviet Union in any situation, the expansion of Germany would be justifiable. In this meeting described by the memorandum, Hitler talked about how the time for war was nearing, and in which he declared that the war would ideally start sometime between 1943 and 1945. Hitler basically said that this war is inevitable, so it's bound to happen. He said this timeline initially because he thought there was going to be a civil war in France between 1943 and 1945. Why do you think Hitler thought this?
It seems like Hitler did a lot of thinking. His brain must have hurt trying to come up with so many plans all at once. I think he thought that war was going to start because he was planning on it.
You sort of sound like you're right for once. But I think to add on to that this time period was the Great Depression, and all countries were hurting already. So maybe he thought people in France were having a hard time, so they would end up fighting each other. And then he could start attacking other places and no one would do anything.
Exactly. Hitler thought this way because France's economy and political system were already so weak. So if France became even weaker from a civil war or a coup, Germany thought that they could eat France up, and the UK wouldn't really have a problem with it. The UK initially wasn't really in any solid allyships with France or any other European countries for that matter. UK's viewpoint on other European countries was that they, number one, didn't want to really be involved in any wars, and number two, they were just playing nice with other European countries, and why number two? Because they wanted to use the other countries while being on sort of good terms with them, but not completely bound to them in an allyship. The whole time the UK was acting buddy-buddy with France, they were still telling Germany, hey, we're fine with you guys expanding your assets and power, as long as you're okay with us doing the same. If you look at it, if France were to become completely wrecked, the UK still would have different alternatives. They could pair up with Germany and work together against the Soviet Union. Or they could pair up with the Soviet Union and work together against Germany. However, the one thing that doesn't really make sense from the memorandum is the idea that Hitler had about the UK not really caring if Germany were to take over France. Had this happened, would the UK really have stepped back and just watched as Germany gets that much more powerful?
Yeah, I think they wouldn't have done anything really. I mean, look at today, the other countries aren't really actively doing much to help Ukraine.
Well, I don't know. I think they would have. I think if they were buddies, they would have helped each other out, right?
So, overall, the Hossbach memorandum can't be proven to be 100% true, but there were parts of it in terms of Hitler's plans for expansion and war that could have been true, looking at trends in Hitler's known public political views. But basically, to sum it up, this memorandum implied that the UK wouldn't do anything or push back against Germany if they tried to expand their territory. But as we can see, in 1938, the UK really just sat back and sort of watched. Germany and Italy buddied up and started slowly but surely going after Austria. Austria started gaining perspective on the situation and were basically like, hey, who are you guys to tell me what to do? Why are you doing this? Hey, leave me alone. They started looking around, trying to buddy up with another country because they were being threatened. But France was weak during this time, and the Soviet Union standpoint was, hey, I really don't care if you guys all fight, just leave me out of it. Don't even look at me. I'm not getting involved. The Soviet Union hoped that the other countries would all just fight, take each other out, and just get weaker together, so that the Soviet Union could go ahead and have a super easy time invading the weakened countries and eat them all up to become stronger. The Soviet Union basically had the viewpoint of, please fight, and Austria, you're on your own. On the other hand, the whole time the UK was just sitting back and watching, they were looking at Germany and thinking, Germany's getting stronger. And if they end up invading Austria, then it works out because if they can handle both France and the Soviet Union, that's less of a headache for us. So overall, the UK at this point was thinking that after assessing the situation, there would be more benefit than cons of Germany getting a little bit stronger. So at this point, the UK told the Austrian representatives/officials that were in the UK to go and tell the rest of Austria to not fight back against Germany and to comply. Fast forward, Austria becomes pro-Germany and later on becomes a part of Germany in the blink of an eye. Hitler was saying that even if Germany brings Austria to become one of its assets, France can't even say anything outright because they're so weak at this point. And to add on to it, the UK would think that there's nothing harmful or threatening about Germany becoming stronger. And all other countries at this time didn't want to risk another war. So he thought they'd just sit back and watch. So overall, we can see that Hitler calculated and predicted all the possible outcomes pretty correctly before making his move. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. To watch the next part and learn more about World War II with Coco and Mango, like, subscribe, follow, and comment. See you guys next class.